Mics are live.
Hello there.
Always give them.
Sitting here quiet.
Oh, I know you're better. Good evening, everyone. It is 6 p.m. on Monday, November 24th for our Lincolnville Select Board meeting. Lately, would you read the quote for this evening?
Sure, it pays to keep an open mind, but not so open your brains fall out. Carl Sagan.
There we go. Okay, we'll start off as usual with the citizens forum. Is there anyone that has a non-agenda item that they'd like to speak about? Seeing no one rushing to the podium, we'll move on to the administrator's report.
Don't have one.
Wow, is this a first? At least a couple of years.
We'll jump in later.
Yeah. Any questions for David?
You can't think of something on the spot? No, okay.
Okay. Moving along to meetings and announcements.
All meetings are here in the town office unless announced otherwise. Lakes and Ponds Committee scheduled to meet Tuesday, November 25th, 7 p.m. Town office will be closed on Thursday and Friday of this week in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. School committee is scheduled to meet Monday, December 1st, 6 p.m. at the Lincolnville Central School. The select board will have a priorities workshop on Monday, December 1st, 6 p.m. Comprehensive Plan Review Committee is scheduled to meet Wednesday, December 3rd, 6 p.m. Planning Board has a training session on Wednesday, December 3rd, 6 p.m. The location is yet to be determined. Please check the town office if you want to watch the Planning Board training. Recreation Commission is scheduled to meet Monday, December 8th, 6 p.m. And the Select Board meets next in regular session on Monday, December 8th, 6 p.m.
Excellent. Thank you. And do we have any upcoming community events? Hearing or get on to the meeting minutes for November 10th.
I move that the board approve the November 10th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved and well seconded. Any discussion?
Yes,
Yes.
I don't really care that my last name was misspelled on line 298, but row 150, I'm pretty positive I voted no, that it wasn't a 5-0, it was a 4-1.
I remember that, yeah.
It's the Moody Mountain Road, not that I'm against it, I just thought it was a waste of
Yep.
state time and money, because the speed limit isn't really the issue.
So that should be 4-1 and
Yeah.
no.
That's
Okay.
I'll amend that motion to approve with the amendments as noted.
I will second the amended motion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the amended motion. Excellent. Thank you. Our first significant topic for the evening is around the beach fire station replacement. Chief Bullington or Deputy Chief Weed?
As you all know, we've kind of in the past planned for a replacement location and station. We've had the problem for quite a while now. We did an RFP, I think 2.5 years ago. We're seeing anything come back for interest wise, and with the economy the way it was and building it was, we just thought we'd wait. And we think now is a good time to start working on it again.
Excellent. Comments or questions?
I have quite a few. First, what is it exactly that you're here before us to, I guess, ask for or present besides what is in your packet?
Basically approval to do RFP for an architect and site work. What's the description?
Design, basically, we wanna seek out a agency to design, kind of present, or multiples, some proposals to us.
Okay,
That way we can come down with an actual drawing of what we're looking to do. And have somewhat of an idea of what it might cost.
okay. I'm curious what changed from the fall of 2021 to what you have outlined here, because we're looking at some pretty significant increases in both overall size and use of the space, and so I'm just wondering if you could speak to the thought process there.
I think we all sat down and thought a lot more about farther in the future and what the town might need. Like EMS. We don't feel that it's needed, and we don't know if it ever will be needed. But we might as well build structure that can accommodate sleeping quarters, bathrooms, a kitchen. So if we do need it in 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 years, it's all there. The thought was, if we don't need showers, we'd at least put all the stubs in for the showers and the bathrooms. I mean, we obviously need at least one bathroom in the facility, but we don't need showers and stuff like that right now. But the thought was to plan for any and all needs
Okay.
in the foreseeable future.
Okay. So that was, I guess, my follow-up, without getting into the nitty-gritty of, what you've asked for, but. What would you, I mean, I'm just thinking, what you have proposed in our packet seems sort of very, best case scenario, the kind of pie in the sky dream. And it sounded like you are also thinking along the lines of just kind of having stub outs for potential future plumbing. And so I'm wondering where on the scale of, say, building exactly what you need and having accommodations for additions or changes in the future, what I mean, kind of a phased approach. And have you discussed that?
We thought about, building something that could be added on to in the future and added on, talking with some other architects that are just friends. Said, it's like it makes way more sense to just build everything you need in one shot rather than do an addition 5 years and another addition in 5 years, because it just ends up costing way more in the long run to do it that way.
I'll cut right to the chase. This is our main fire department over here.
Yep,
Is this a substation?
it could be if it needed to be. It's part of the plan is if the county ever regionalizes or anything like that. It's all thinking possibly 40 years from now. That maybe Belfast ends up being a main station and Lincolnville ends up being a station and Northport has a small station and you have maybe 2 full-time firefighters that live in every station.
Yeah,
Probably won't happen.
I'm just, the only reason I asked that question is, was the thought process on what we have in our package here, did that also have anything to do with what's over here and what's going to be over here?
As far as like the center station.
Correct. Because it looks to me like if I was just new and didn't understand what this was over here, looks to me like this is going to be the mother station.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that. I think we would have.
So is it safe to say that maybe there should be a bigger conversation before going after what's this going to cost us for the whole town protection? Before it seems to me we're putting this ahead of what we got going on over here, and this over here and this both have to be an eye to the future.
Right.
They have to be. And our fire protection and our protection for the town. I think we need to maximize it. And this right here looks like to me, and I am just one person here, I don't know what any of these people think, looks like a replacement for this over here.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It was, we need to replace the existing beach station because it's flooded.
Yeah.
The next apparatus that will live in that station won't fit in that building.
Mhm.
So we figured if we're gonna spend the money to build a new building, we might as well try to build something that will accommodate anything that we might need.
I personally think we all need to sit down and talk about this.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, we're fine with that. Absolutely.
And the only reason I say that is you don't have this over there.
Correct.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things that Leila pointed out, and also Kern, in this charge that you're asking for. It would seem, as far as based on the conversations we've had, to ask that charge include you all looking at what this new substation is gonna function as in the whole picture that we're talking about here, in addition to an RFP, looking at an RFP, in addition to possible funding options, et cetera. So, given that, that's the way I see it. Given that, would you all have a problem if that charge were to include that directive? That you do look at the bigger picture, what the station's gonna be, and kind of formalize those things and get back to us. That would be kind of helpful in a long-term, in a larger conversation, I would think.
Do that. Let's see what else.
It would help me, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, it sounds like, I mean, obviously your building committee, your internal building committee has been thinking, working on this for many years. But some of the questions that I think we all have and that have been raised here tonight, I don't know what you all think about somehow taking your building committee and maybe adding a couple budget committee members. I don't know. I haven't, it's sort of opening it up to create a little bit broader committee demographics so that some of these questions, and that we create a charge that allows some of these questions to be worked through, not necessarily here in select board meeting, but, hammer out, the pros and cons of some of the approaches to then narrow it down to a clearer plan budget, and then which would all be needed for an RFP. So I don't know, what do you all think about that?
Some good parts there, I know.
Yeah, I had questions.
Yep.
Well, first, can we go back and just clarify a couple of things in the list? Because the first thing is the EMS ready with the 2-bedroom, 2-bath living quarters, full kitchen, but then the fourth one down is 40 by 60 living quarters, meeting room, kitchen, and bath. Is that a separate thing? It's another 40 by 60 in
It's
addition to the EMS?
Same building,
Yeah,
it's was just separating the bay sizes and the EMS living quarters.
so it's the same. That 40 by 60 living quarters includes that EMS ready
Correct.
section.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was one question. And it's been mentioned by a couple of us, at least, as far as, if the charge included, my question is, when you came up with this, did you already consider the existing fire station in this one as a coordinated whole for the town? Like when you were coming up with what you needed at this one into the future, were you intending that even though it's not the primary, but that if we need EMS capability, are you going to put it at the primary? Are you going to put it there? we're building something new there, it makes sense to roll it into this. And I guess I've talked around it a lot, but did you already consider take the existing capacity that we have into consideration when you were coming up with this?
Yeah, essentially, yes. So the bay sizes accommodate our new fire truck. With the additional, if there was ever to be a second truck in that station, there would be room for it, as well as EMS, if that becomes a thing. Where we house EMS in town, which is, I can't predict the future, so I have no idea if that'll happen or not, but it's a great possibility if you look at trends in other surrounding areas, that it could come to that in Lincolnville. So our thought process was, if we're building this station, that probably, I mean, I wouldn't bet my life on it, but we'll probably see in our lifetime either full-time fire or EMS in town, would be my guess. So we're trying to prepare for that, so it's not a panic
Right.
when all of a sudden we have to figure out where to house EMS. And this stuff, as you know, takes a long time to iron out. So we're just trying to think ahead of the card a little bit.
The only other question that I had was, you do mention heat pumps, but I was wondering if you were considering the siting of the building. I'm picturing the Belfast Fire Station that you drive past, you know, near the Hannaford, where they've got the solar panels, and were you considering the orientation and such that you could kind of put solar panels on to help with the electric? I know we've got our other municipal array, but
Yeah,
I just wondered if that would be part of your planning process.
we hadn't got that far into it yet. It's definitely an option. We'd have to weigh the pros and cons and look at our existing array and new array and make sure the costs obviously offset the putting the array on the roof and such, but it's, we definitely had not got that far into the design process yet.
I'm all set. I'll save mine for a different platform.
So overall, we definitely have to be thinking about this. So thanks for bringing it forward. I think we need to do some fine tuning to how we move forward in creating that charge. I personally feel we do need to create the committee to pull this forward and get to a point where we have something we all can agree is the right step forward and can go to an RFP with an engineer and architects, et cetera. We definitely have to be planning for EMS going forward. I mean, it may not become a reality, but if we don't plan for it, it's going to bite us. And I'd be a large proponent of having some other non-fire department folks on the committee, potentially a select board member, budget committee. And then the last item is more of a question. What do you feel is a realistic timeline to work on this to a point? When would you like to be able to go forward with to an architect, et cetera, or put an RFP out? It's not going to happen overnight. We definitely have some, as there's been a bunch of questions, we definitely have to come up with, do some planning and some meetings to work on this.
I think it would be good to be there for the end of the winter.
For the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah,
That's June.
yeah,
Yeah,
I would
June.
say that's
Yeah, it's a
reasonable.
June will be good.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, the only other question, that I would have, has to do with, are you all planning, or is the budget, the fire department building committee planning on bringing forth any budget items in the next month or so? Was that in your head, or is that something we should be looking forward to? I don't want to ask you to look into the crystal ball or
Right.
commit to anything, but I was just curious.
No, we hadn't thought about
Okay.
what it would be for yearly maintenance, heat, electric, any of that stuff.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Would anyone care to make a motion regarding this process?
I move to have the town administrator prepare a charge, including the recommendations discussed here tonight to create a beach fire station building committee for the select board to consider at an upcoming meeting.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Oh, okay. Is there any, anybody else that wanted to speak on this issue?
Yes.
I'm Crystal Coombs, and I live at 318 Beach Road. And I would like to be considered to be part of the committee that you are talking about being put forward. And is there a way to get a copy of what you guys have been presented by the fire department?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
Well, we will have to. We don't have a charge yet, so we're probably a couple meetings away from having it be formalized.
But what,
Yeah, this will be on the town website. You
Yeah,
can,
this is already,
Yep.
okay,
this is available.
yeah,
Perfect.
so you can go and pull that. Or our whole packet for your viewing pleasure.
thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, please.
Hi, Sandy Lehman, 337 Beach Road. I'd also like to be considered for the committee.
Would that be like filling out a community interest form?
Yeah.
If we
Yep.
get the charge.
Yeah, once we have a charge pulled together to
Yep.
create that committee.
Yep.
Anyone else? Yeah. All the people in the interwebs have to be able to hear you.
I'm Sarah Katuzny Black at 510 Beach Road, and I would also like to be considered for the committee. So when it's available, I'll look for the form online, or there'll be a notification.
Yeah, pay attention to when this gets finalized, so probably a couple of
Yeah.
meetings from now, and then community interest forms are available here at the town office.
Okay.
Fill them out, and then they'll get on another agenda,
Yep.
which we'll review them.
We'll determine in the process if we're looking at one community member, two community members, whatever that looks like. And choose from those that submit.
Thank you.
So when's the best time? Do I have to reintroduce myself? Okay. When's the best time to ask questions like pertaining to groundwater and where their source of water is going to come from, etc.?
Yeah. Once we get to the process where we have a
Okay.
committee.
When we're on the
founded
committee.
And moving forward,
Sounds
yeah,
good. Okay.
and. Anybody else like to speak to this matter? Please.
I'm a member of the fire department, Nikhil. And I'm a member of the building committee for the beach station now. Would you like the fire members that are now on that committee to apply for this town committee as well, or can we be accepted as a whole, like, I think there's 8 of us. 7 or 8 of us.
Look at that. I'd say we'd want the fire department to recommend. There'll be some number of members on the committee, and the fire department should
Right.
identify who. If there's 6 spots, let's say, for the fire department would tell us who the 6 spots are.
All right, because we all have some seat time in it. We've been trying this for
Right.
years.
But we'll figure out what that committee size looks like.
Yeah, kind of stink to
And
get
then-
voted off the island.
No, totally agree. Whatever that committee size ends up looking like,
Oh, God, Nick.
I would see us asking the fire department to
Yeah,
identify who the people are.
yeah,
Oh, you're out.
but yeah, because it's an ad
So you
hoc,
need a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's an ad hoc committee, and so really it's up to the board to
Mhm.
determine the size, you know, and obviously if a committee can get unwieldy, the more members, it just gets hard to.
No, I understand.
Do
That's
it
what
so-
led me to come up.
Yeah.
and ask the
Yeah.
question.
Absolutely.
We
But-
already have 6 or 7 guys working on it, and we love community input and stuff, but
Yep.
if we start getting into 20 people, we don't become productive.
Yeah, my thought is that we would take what the fire department has, just
Mhm.
build on
Yep.
that.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you guys.
Like- Thank you. Anyone else on this item? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you all. We'll move on to item number 7, which is our EMS update and quarterly report review. There he comes.
Here we go.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for indulging me from moving from earlier in the month. So, so my name's Rick Petrie. I'm paramedic and I'm with with Northeast. You should have received the quarterly report. And I'm pleased to say that we remain within our guidelines as set forth in the contract. And we've actually seen with the shared staffing arrangement with Camden Fire that we've seen an actual reduction in response time by a couple minutes to Lincolnville. So we're pleased with that as well. And for the most part, where the program's working very well. We had some bugs we had to work out when we started, but everybody is doing a great job. We're communicating really well, and we're meeting our response time and response criteria for the towns. I do want to point out that on the second page, the 4th, just in case you picked it up, the actual 4th chart, calls by disposition for the month of August. There's one more call counted in there than the total calls for the month, and that was because there was a call that was and when they entered it, it was doubled as both on-site treatment and no transport and no patient contact. So it shows us 18 calls instead of 17 calls, but it was 17 calls for the month. But things are going well. Staff are working well together, and I'm happy with the numbers. There was some potential for hiccups, but they appear to have been handled well. So, and do you have any questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell me what total CDE calls means?
So,
compared
so
to
when
total
we,
calls?
when you call 911 and you let the dispatcher know what your problem is, what the CDE calls are the higher acuity calls, and by contract, the contract wants to make sure that we have a paramedic on those calls 95% of the time. So those are and A and B calls are somebody, a 35-year-old man who's been having back pain for 3 weeks, and just has decided now that that he can't take it anymore. So those are A and B calls, less acuity, don't really require the paramedic on the initial call. So CDE are higher acuity calls, and the towns wanted to make sure that you had a paramedic at least 95% of the time. So, and then our other calls, on 100% of the calls that we respond to, we have at least an advanced EMT on the call. So.
Okay.
Not included here, and I haven't been keeping track, so I just wondered if you happened to know the number of your total responses year to date, year to the end of this last quarter.
I'm sorry, but I'll send Dave an email with that tomorrow.
Yes.
So that he can, I'll grab the stuff from the first 2 quarters and send it off to Dave, and he can distribute it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Good.
And not just for Lincolnville, but for the area,
Yeah,
right? The
yeah,
contract
yes,
area.
please, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get that over to Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. It's pain.
It's not.
Listen, I wonder how the relationship is going. I know you say it's going good, but sometimes it can be tough. And what I mean by that is you don't have accommodations in the Camden Fire Department to sleep?
We do actually.
Who's staying over the River House?
That's where we're all staying. All the firefighters and the EMS providers are
Yeah,
staying.
that's what I mean. You're
Oh,
not
I see what
physically
you mean.
on site, so
Right.
that's a transition in time in itself.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, how's that going?
I have to tell you that I've been, I have to tell you that I'm in the same page that you are, that I was expecting more. I was expecting more issues, but I've been really pleasantly surprised that, that there's an outstanding working relationship. People are getting along well. They're jumping on calls, doing calls, they're working well together. We have a couple of shared events that we've done together. We're looking for more events in the communities to work and do stuff. And I've been, Camden Fire went to Camden Snowball and said, "Hey, we want to include the Northeast employees in the discount that is given to us." They did that on their own. We didn't ask them to do that. So all in all, I will say that that I've been very, very pleasantly surprised by the working relationship and everybody's commitment to making this work.
That's all I have, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Others? The only, similar to the other question regarding number of calls, can you speak to any trends you've seen over the year? These response times staying
Well,
the same, declining?
Overall, we were pretty consistent leading up to July 1st. We were pretty consistent overall. There wasn't much variation on the theme. And then with the July 1st, which we've seen a little bit of a couple of minute drop in response time to Lincolnville because we moved into Camden. Then that first vehicle for CDE calls comes out of Camden, right? So that's one of the changes in the trend is we dropped that down just a little bit. We took our third ambulance out of service because the third ambulance was really the transfer ambulance, right, that was doing. And we've seen a decrease in the transfers out of Maine Health. But also, as we were very clear about up front, is that 250 lost calls out of Rockport is a fairly significant chunk and change between the lost calls, the lost revenue, and the lost subsidy. So the third ambulance that we had on 12 hours a day came off. And now we have the truck 24 hours a day in Camden Fire and the other truck 16 hours a day leaving out of Rockport. So.
And
we're in the point now where our calls will start to drop. That's just the natural, after you get over summer, the calls start to drop. We'll start to see them pick up again in May, June time.
And with the change with Rockport, have you been having to do calls into Rockport much?
We've done some calls into Rockport, and they've done some calls coming into us as well because we put our we were very clear about the fact that that if we're not available, we immediately call for mutual aid. And it's the closest vehicle and between Rockland or Rockport. So.
Okay.
And sometimes in the far reaches up here, it might be Belfast.
Yeah.
But, so yeah.
Excellent. Any other, David?
While you're here and have.
What's that?
While you're here and have infinite knowledge of EMS systems. Can you quickly provide the board with your overview of first responders? We've had some very early conversations about that. We know that both Camden and Hope have established first responders. We have thus far chosen not to.
Yeah. I think that with any EMS system, for a first responder system is critically important, particularly in rural areas of the state. But you want to know what? Even in areas like Portland and stuff, there can be a modified first responder. For instance, there are programs nationally in urban centers where anybody who's trained in CPR can download an app on their phone, and the dispatch center, if they get a call for a person down, not breathing or questionable consciousness or even CPR, then a page gets sent out to all of those phones for anybody who wanted to sign in. Anybody, actually, I think it's even smarter than I just pretended to be. It will send it to phones that are determined to be in close proximity to where the person down is. It's really amazing. And we'll give you instructions like there's a report of a person down at 316 Main Street, and the closest AED is, and it will tell you where it is. So I have to tell you that that the reality of it is that for life-threatening emergencies, which don't necessarily make up a significant percentage of the calls that we do, but for life-threatening emergencies, the sooner somebody can get there, the better. CPR, defibrillation, bleeding control, EpiPens, things like that could be life saving for a number of people. So their first responder services are important. First responder groups are important. Unfortunately, in the state of Maine and actually nationally, I think we are seeing an increase in the size of some of our patients, actually many of our patients. And so an extra set of hands can be very helpful on a call as well. And just sometimes just for that kind of first response, getting on the scene, helping to get control of the situation very quickly can be very helpful. First responders are really important. They're a member of the community, and there are variations on the theme from whether standard, the regular first responder trained, programs to community emergency response teams. But it's really worthwhile to look at some variation of that program. It's very beneficial, particularly in areas in Lincolnville that are a little bit away from where the response is. The reality of it is that I heard these guys talk earlier about trends, right? Where you're seeing trends go. And I even heard the word regionalization mentioned a couple of times. And the truth of the matter is that reimbursement for EMS is horrible. It has been for a long time. The government doesn't appear to be in any hurry to make it any better. And regionalization in public safety is going to be the key, better utilization of resources. But with that comes ambulances that are strategically placed, but you never know when they might be on a call. So first responder groups can be critically important to that, and community teams are critically important to that.
Thank you.
Way back in the day, when we first met, you had used a figure, I believe, of 2,000 transports or 2,000 billable calls per ambulance for break even.
So it's up to 2,500 now, 2,500 paying calls to pay for an ambulance 24 hours a day. It's right now Medicare and Medicaid make up 72 to 75% of the payer mix in the state of Maine, and Medicare and Medicaid pay somewhere. I think we're down to about 65% of what it costs to go on a call, just to do the call. That doesn't talk about things like readiness. I heard you guys talking about that earlier. Readiness and training and preparedness and quick response, and it's really bad. And they just completed a 4-year study and they turned out a preliminary report on the first 2 years that showed that Medicare and Medicaid that set the bar way off of what it costs to provide EMS. And not to think about when I first started, Dave alluded to this earlier. Many of the departments in the state of Maine were volunteer. You showed up at a meeting, they gave you your gear, they gave you a pager, they told you when this goes off, it tells you where to go, show up and do it. And it's so much more complex than that. But being a firefighter and an EMT now is very complex. It's unfortunately growing more unsafe. The training and education and preparedness that goes into being a public servant, public service agency is very complex, and it's going to make it harder. And so that's and we need to think about what this looks like in 5 years and 10 years and moving forward, so that we can provide the best service to the citizens, in a timely fashion. And one of the unpopular things is, and it seems counterintuitive, is we should get rid of lights and sirens response. It absolutely does nothing at all, except create a danger. But that's a national movement that's not very popular. Everybody thinks that by turning on your lights and sirens that you get there quicker and people move out of your way. But if you've ever driven an emergency vehicle, you realize that that's not necessarily the case. So there's a lot that we're going to be looking at. And it requires the forethought that these guys were talking about. So.
I don't want to get off topic, but I feel like Dave would prompt the juices, of we had following Chief Farley coming and giving a little spiel. We had talked about in the future having a conversation. And I feel like, where are we with that? And it'd be great at another time to have a constructive conversation to explore some of these items that you've.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be happy to help you with that and just participate in those conversations. And you should have, a disparate group having that conversation. But this is a real issue moving forward. And we look at what we just went through on a national level. For instance, you already look at reimbursement being bad, and then they shut the government down. And with it, they shut off what they call modifiers, which help rural areas, increases their reimbursement for rural areas, and they shut them off. And so now you're faced with the choice of either I bill this out, right? Every week we bill it out. And then we take a chance that when this comes back, that they'll pay it again, right? Or not pay it again, or and then you have to resubmit it, right? Completely resubmit it, wipe the slate clean, or you don't do it at all. And the problem is that ambulance services waiting 30 or 60 days to bill out just to hold their breath and hope that this comes back again, puts towns, municipalities, private services, volunteer services in a terrible situation. It's really bad. So I think it would be great to have that conversation, and it would be good. And going back to when we had these before, just sitting down and having a roundtable discussion, very beneficial.
Like that list of items for our priorities.
Awesome.
So absolutely.
Absolutely.
Any other? Yes.
So when you were talking about community first responders, I had made myself a note to check with Dale or Waldo County EMA.
Sure.
And, we're right on the edge of Knox County because we're actually Waldo County, so that's ours, but is Knox County, do they have any sort of program that Knox EMA might be doing to be?
I don't know whether they do or not. My first reaction is I don't think so, because I've never heard of them. Do you guys know? I think that they do.
Okay.
But the reality of it is it can be the county can be part of that because there's a structure in place for the state. But it can be a community endeavor. I mean, you can look at things like buying AEDs, placement of AEDs, just general training. Everything that I was talking about before is public information, public CPR classes, using AEDs, stop the bleed programs, are all public information classes that can, and you can buy everything, as you know, that you might ever need on Amazon, right? All of this stuff, the tourniquets, the bleeding control, and there's a grant program in the state to buy AEDs for $780, $799, something like that, which is just is half price of what you're seeing out there, and so those, but you can choose to undertake that as a community, and the beauty of the AED laws, for instance, is that there's zero liability if you use it. If you don't use it, there's zero liability because of the way the law is written. And in case anybody's ever concerned, you can't hook it up to somebody and just see if it works. It won't fire. You can't try it out on your friend who's sleeping. It won't work. But it's really it's really good to get involved with stuff like that and look at that. So I'd be happy to participate in those conversations.
Excellent.
So
Seeing no other questions. Thank you very much for coming in.
thanks a lot for your time and your continued support. I really appreciate it. Look forward to working with you guys.
Excellent. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Give me a call about that other issue.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Cool.
Take care.
Moving forward, we have a variety of committee appointments, planning board appointments. David, you want to address any of those or?
Sure. One at a time, I guess, on the planning board. Joan Richardson had initially applied as an alternate member because she wanted to kind of get an experience and didn't want to commit to a longer term and being it, so to speak. She's now attended a number of meetings of the planning board since her appointment. And believes she has the time and capabilities to take on the regular membership if the board wish to appoint to that. And the chair of the planning board spoke in favor of that, or spoke to me in favor of that change.
Excellent. Any comment on that? Otherwise, look for a motion.
I move that the select board appoint Joan Richardson as a regular member of the planning board with a term expiring June 2028.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Excellent. And for the comprehensive plan review committee,
For the comprehensive plan review committee, at your last meeting, you had a resignation from a regular member. And I was asked to reach out to the alternate and to the people that were on the ad hoc, for lack of a better word, committee. To see if there was any interest in becoming a regular member. The only person I heard back from was Stacy Parra, who said she'd gladly accept a regular member term.
excellent. Anyone like to make a motion?
I move that the select board appoint Stacy Parra as a regular member of the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee to complete the 3-year term of Sam Stopak, with the term expiring in June of 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
We also, that created a vacancy on the comprehensive plan review committee. Put something out on the Google group, reached out to those 3 people that had expressed interest prior about serving on the committee but weren't selected. Hayden Sears expressed an interest, said that through the holidays he would be unable to attend a select board meeting or interview or whatever you want to call it when they come, because he had another commitment for apparently a concert of some sort that's going on for the holidays. And I at least thought I would put that in the packet and say I'm not quite sure whether you would do anything with it without having him present like we ask others, but you know.
What is the intention of those?
I don't know him personally, and I would definitely want to have a conversation.
Yep.
And also encourage the community to continue. There's interest, submit a community interest form and have robust choices.
Excellent.
I do know Hayden, and I know what his Monday commitment is, the Downing Singers, but and he's a soloist with them too, so it's hard to not be there 2 weeks before the concert, which is why he's not here.
Okay.
But I have seen him in action in a number of organizations, and I would say he gives 110% whenever he gets involved in something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've also worked with Hayden on a couple of things. Yeah, I think he'd be good for it. And but at the same time, I think it's important that the board look that person in the eye and be able to ask that person questions. The only thing I would caution against, I hope it's the comp plan isn't in such a hurry, isn't so urgent that it needs somebody right away.
No.
If that's not the case, I say let's wait until he has a chance to show up and we can ask questions.
I think we just need to stand by our normal process
Yeah.
of the first time somebody joins the committee, having them come in and meet us. So we'll postpone that
I
to.
will let him know and tell him what your schedule is. upcoming and have him tell me when he.
Excellent.
Give it.
And one more.
And then the Conservation Commission, Paul Sampson has submitted his resignation. Which is in your packet primarily because he was taught to give 100% commitment and he can't do that and bugging him.
Okay. So motion there,
I
please.
move the select board accept with regret the resignation of Paul Sampson from the Conservation Commission.
All in favor? Just one comment there with him dropping off, we'll definitely need to find a new member, hopefully.
Yeah.
Or three, to fill the alternate positions. We should definitely get something out, regarding looking for those. members. Excellent. Moving on to item number 9. Appointment of a part-time town office custodian.
At your last meeting, you reviewed in executive session the applications for part-time custodian here at the town office. And Larry, Larry, but his name is John, I think. Larry Bias was willing to accept the position at the rate of the previous, and we've started training and there they go. You're ready to hire.
Excellent.
We've already started training.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move the select board hire Larry Baez as part-time town office custodian with a starting pay rate of $21.75 per hour and a 6-month probationary period.
Second.
Well seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. And now we need to move on to Board of Assessors items.
I move we suspend our meeting as a select board and that we convene with the Board of Assessors.
Second.
All in favor? Excellent. Mr. Gary, you may join us.
Hey, how you doing?
David, any intro here?
The only intro is the number of meetings with property owners is diminishing, but there are a number of corrections that you have a list of. These are all assessor initiated versus an application that the people filled out, and we had one, shall I call it a biggie, where somebody got taxed twice for the same property, and that didn't seem right, so they recommended that abatement. The first abatement that's listed on the list is actually one you addressed at the last meeting. And the total abatements recommended is $15,242.10, which you can see more than half of that's proposed for Searsmont Road. So.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
I'm just curious, the row immediately above that, it says to correct land value and in parentheses in FL, what does FL? stand for?
Farmland. I thought it was Florida. Why do we tax this?
Florida.
Yeah.
Flum, but farm.
Excellent. That's my question. Any other questions on any of these?
So I got one. And probably not gonna be an answer, but a fair amount of those are pretty much all of them are to correct building value. They visited every building. Why is that?
I may be able to answer that.
Okay.
For a number of people, obviously, they didn't get to meet or greet anyone. And when people came in and looked at the record that they used, which turns out to be for interior, turns out to be the same as what we've been using previously. And there were errors in that record. We're correcting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know personally when I met with them, which was, when they had those ones in August, so it was before. they had me down as having a working fireplace that there's a mantle, but there's no fireplace. And so, you know, that was 7,500 they knocked off. I know, I couldn't believe it. It was like that much for a fireplace.
It's been a bunch of those.
Look at mine.
If there are
Thank
no
you, David. You're
other
welcome.
questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve abatement numbers 2526 027 to 2526 42 in the tax amount of $15,242.10.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. And so
I move to close our meeting as the Board of Assessors and reconvene as the Select Board.
thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.
We have a motion.
I was waiting for Rosie to second because I jumped on him. Yeah.
Second. All in favor? Okay, we're back in session as the Select Board. Thank you, Mr. Gary. Okay. Next item is our select person updates.
I have nothing.
Mr.
We
Lee.
did have a Midfield Solid Waste Board of Directors meeting. Basically, it's business as usual. We had some things that we needed to discuss about some maintenance that needs to be done sooner than a little bit later on some of the equipment that we have, and also replacement of our containers. And we were able to go with a different style or shape type container. All of our containers that are in the hoppers that are, we compact, crash in to be, you know, get our maximum going down the road. Find that after years of repairing them, finally they're starting to blow out, which doesn't make sense to repair. So
Yeah.
we've been putting money aside to do that, and we've been talking about it, and we just didn't pull the trigger soon enough. So those are being replaced in the very near future. That goes along with our facility upgrade. We'll be changing a few things down there around the compactor area. There'll be covers so that we don't have, when we have inclement weather, we're not pushing a lot of wet material, even though it is at times. And we had an issue with the bulldozer, which not scheduled to be replaced at this time, although we did talk about whether it would be better to replace it rather than repair it. But we elected to repair it because of the length of service that it still had left. But it was a good meeting. The other thing that we talked about is there is a trail in Rockport, a hiking trail, walking trail, whatever, that goes from the development out behind Midfield Solid Waste, which is the Greenfield Estates is what they call it, all the way down around the back of the waste facility and over to Rockport. Just consulting with the attorney about legal signage. It's a trail that a lot of people use, and a lot more people want to use it. It's on the outside edge. No one would ever be in the facility itself. A little bit of a conversation about that, and it also has to do with the Pathways Committee, the Pathways program. So we kind of moved that along so that's going to get some proper signage, and so nobody gets lost. And other than that, the facility is going fairly well. That's all I have.
Excellent. Mike.
Oh, yeah, I was not,
I don't mean to interrupt, but now you can pay down there with a credit card.
oh,
Our new POS.
Going to the
system is
21st century.
You don't have to bring cash. All you have to do is,
swipe it. Huh?
yes,
There you go.
swipe it or just touch it,
I can just cut it.
and you can get a receipt. Things are good. Sorry, Mike.
No, that's great news. You have sold my thunder, buddy. I wanted to be, I wasn't able to go to the MCOG General Assembly meeting on the 20th of November, scheduling conflict, whatnot. Nevertheless, so I can't report back to you, but nevertheless, the presentations that were there on property tax and housing should be on their website, mcog.org, any day now. If anybody wants to check them out.
Excellent. Thank you.
My turn.
Yes, your turn.
Okay, so I know I've been trying to prepare everybody for the county budget. And we have now finished all of our meetings. We voted the line items on Friday, and our public hearing is coming up December 12th, which is Friday at 6 o'clock. And the one piece that's still a slightly unknown is we don't have a final interest rate percentage for the tax and anticipation note. We've pretty positive that we've erred on the side of caution by using 5.5%. They're expecting it to come in lower, and that may make a difference of 30,000 or so in the budget. So not the bad news. So this past year, we were looking at about 13 million for the county. The initial county budget was 19.2. We did a lot of work on the budget committee, got it down to 17.4, which is still a significant increase. It's a 37% increase. We managed to take 300,000, I wrote it down, 300,000 out of the jail budget, which actually made it a reduction over this year. And 1.5 million from the rest of the county departments. So a total of 1.8 million that we reduced the county budget by. The reason we were in this position, the county is self-funded for their employee health plan. They have not until this year's budget ever really included all of the expenses. They were basing the budget contribution just on the premiums, rather than also looking at the wider, more robust, all-encompassing medical expenditures that were happening in the program. So they were covering kind of a portion of their expenses, but not everything. And they've been biting into reserves, and they got a new commissioner in District 3 who has a background in healthcare administration, and he has really taken the lead with the commissioners in making sure that they're more transparent in what they're doing for the budget for the healthcare expenses. And also, and that was more than $1 million of the increase was specifically for the health plan. But I'd say we've got a pretty realistic, and if anything, conservative. A big problem is being a self-funded health plan where you only have 100 or so people in the health plan. Well, 100 or so employees and families or not, but for instance, this year there's something called stop loss, which is for the bigger expenses. The county's indemnified by the TPA that they have, the company that actually administers the health plan. If you get sick and you're on the health plan, the county's only on the hook for the first $130,000. So if you have something catastrophic and it's $500,000, everything over 130 is picked up by this stop loss plan. But the problem is the county has to pay that out initially and then get reimbursed. And it can take, generally more than a year. It can, they said it sort of averages 18 months or, so for instance, last year, the entire stop loss was $50,000. this year it was 415,000. They had a huge one in like March, I think. One person that, you know, it came through in that month for $600,000. So, you know, it's something that wildly, but this year, last year, they didn't get any stop loss reimbursement. This year, they got 415,000. So they actually made out that, well, sorry, 430. They made out by 15,000 this year as far as they paid out, you know, 430 got back, or 415 got back 430. Last year, they had to pay out 50. They didn't get anything back yet. Maybe they will next year, but you know, so it's big fluctuations, and that's part of why there is like $500,000 sitting in there for this stop loss fluctuation, which has not been in there in the past. And you can't really in good conscience say, don't cover it, because it could, you know. So, yeah, that's a big piece of it. And the other thing was their IT, actually. They've, another thing where the commissioners are sort of in the habit of paying things from other reserves and stuff, and not even building it into the budget. And we've seen budgets, we discussed this a lot in the budget committee, because it's my third year on the budget committee, other people's, you know, at least third year, and saying, you know, we just did not understand. They would say, you know, well, we're covering software cost, you know, and the hardware replacement out of a reserve we set up. We weren't seeing that, and we had no idea the magnitude of it until all of a sudden this year, they're like, well, now we have to pay it for the budget. And the budget went from like, you know, 200,000 to 900,000. But it's very itemized, every, you know, piece of software, and, you know, the whole plan for the hardware. So, I mean, they can support it. It's just, we hadn't seen it before, didn't realize the magnitude. So
But they had the money in the reserves to pay this in the past.
They
Why
weren't
is the budget going up so much?
they weren't replenishing the reserves, and they weren't, you know. Oh, and they also, yeah. They were saying, well, you know, it was a consultant. We were paying it as a consultant, which comes out of like a different place, and it's, yeah. So
What's the standard amount of reserves the county carries?
it doesn't, well, we still haven't seen what their general fund is. Part of their problem is, you know, the whole audit thing, stuff is way backed up. What they've shared with us is a list of different reserve accounts that add up to, I think, $400,000 now. And they were more like 500,000 or 600,000 last year, but I know. But again, the general unallocated fund balance is not in those reserve accounts, and they are not sharing with us what that balance is. We kind of get double talk with that. You know, it goes back to their, well, we don't know, you know, we haven't been audited. They're still trying to get the 2022 audit. The auditors have everything. They're just, you know, they're in the line for the auditors to get back to them. They've already given them the 2023 stuff. Yeah.
Robin, is there a push on the part of commissioners to get those audits done?
I would
mean,
say
I-
yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
there's a sphere, that you're aware of?
Yes,
Okay.
it's. I hope this is not gonna sound rough. From my perspective, like what we hear from our school about the audits, I feel like it's the same sort of a thing where they're like, we've done what we can do, and we're just stuck waiting. And I've heard that from other municipalities, you know, people on the budget committee, and it's in the paper, you know, we've got a shortage of auditors. And the one maybe light, because I do feel like the county does have a culture of being frugal and trying their best to be frugal. There's a statute or something that says that they can't hold more than 20% of whatever an annual budget is. They can't hold in their reserves, once all is said and done, more than 20% that was not expended. They have to refund that back to the towns and city. And so maybe when these audits finally catch up, we might see something 2 years down the line with a nice big correction coming through because they come back and say, geez, you guys are sitting on all this money because
I'm holding my breath.
the reason I say this is because I figure when it all comes down to it, it's cash flow, right? I mean, they have the cash in their accounts to pay bills. And that's when they don't have the cash, they borrow from the TAN. And what we've been budgeting for TAN, this is part of why we clawed back 300,000 TAN interest that they wanted to budget close to 500,000. And I did a whole spreadsheet showing, you know, what was more reasonable. We got it down to 175. And honestly, I think it could be more like 120. This year, we've only paid $88,000 for TAN interest. And for this year, when we were doing this budget last year, they persuaded us to put 300,000. Right there is $120,000, you know, and the year before it was similar, where we budgeted 189 and it came in at like 112. And so, as I say, they're very frugal and very conservative in trying to make sure the fact that they're not having to borrow from the TAN the way they think they might, I think speaks to the fact that they are in okay fiscal shape, and we will at some point see a nice correction. So sorry about that, but this is where we are.
Good to know. Thanks.
Just a note on one of the things you mentioned around self-funded insurance plans. I've been involved in a couple other things in the last 6 months where multiple organizations, both non-private and private company, self-funded insurance has been a nightmare where they end up upside down. The whole self-funded thing is gonna probably come to a head here at some point. But off that topic, 2 items, the school, both boilers have been fired up. We do have good heat in the school. They've got some sort of compensation method in place to deal with the fact that there's the dampers, the special dampers they're waiting for still have not come in. I guess they're supposed to be here in the next few weeks. They've been saying that now for a long time. But the school is fully heated, etc. They're not going to do the final commissioning with the vendors on site and stuff until the dampers are there. But everything else is complete.
It's a damper for.
I'm not sure exactly.
Okay.
There's several different types of dampers. I'm not sure in this case what they're specifically for.
Okay, so I don't feel as bad
No,
asking
no.
that question.
No, and then I think everybody here was there, but or most people were. The comp plan had I thought a good 41 or so people at the, not counting the committee members for the planning
Land use work.
land use. There we go. I was thinking plan, no, land use workshop. And thank you, David. And there was a good diversity of opinion, which is what is critical in that process. So that going.
I had a question about the school.
Yeah.
Any movement on financing?
I mentioned that I have not heard anything as of yet on that, and they have not come forward to try to get on the agenda with us yet.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Sean had mentioned wanting to eventually come forward to get on our agenda, which I discouraged him against until he had
So,
something real.
Sean would like to come speak to this board. Okay,
Potentially.
I see. Okay. Regarding finance.
Potentially.
Okay, thank you. Potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway,
With that over, we'll move on to our treasurers and payroll warrants.
I move that the board approve and sign the treasurer and payroll warrant.
Moved and seconded. Any comment, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Excellent. Yeah, unless there's any other comments, got one last one.
I move we adjourn.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?